We're now being told that Tang restaurant in Sandton has had 4 of their employees arrested. The HR manager has also been arrested, and it's all in connection with immigration documents. You can see the details there on the right-hand side of your screen. I'm hoping to take you live to our reporter, Nqobile Madlala. Is she back with us? All right, let's wait for just a moment while we try to get that up and running. And just in time, she is back. Nqobile, we lost you for a second there, but we've just been describing to our viewers what's unfolded at Sandton. I think it's Nelson Mandela Square where Tang restaurant is situated. Tell us more about the 5 people who have now been arrested.
Correct, Michelle. So the Tang restaurant, we came in earlier to have an inspection really with the inspectors within Gauteng looking in terms of various issues. This looks at employment, also looking at the minimum wage as well. So these were some of the things that they were looking at. Part of what they saw was that there was a documentation issue with regards to most of the staff that were in the kitchen. So about 4 of those staff that are coming from the kitchen were found to have documentation that is not correct. Potentially they could be in the country without the correct documentation, but also were said to not have a work permit. But because they have to be employed by somebody, there's an HR lady that they brought in to account, of course, for what she had obviously done when she was employing them. These were some of the questions that were asked to her in terms of the documentation, how she looked at the documentation, which company they worked who they worked with, and so on. So those 4 now have been taken out of Sandton City. But we know that there were various restaurants that were inspected. It's not just the Tang restaurant. I want to bring in now Advocate Msiza to just give us an update in terms of the people that have been arrested. Advocate, you have already highlighted that there was a documentation issue. Unpack it for us.
Oh, thank you so much, and good afternoon to the viewers. Indeed, that we found 4 of them without documentation at this restaurant, which is Tang, and therefore also they were taken in custody by Home Affairs and the police, and the same will then apply to the HR manager because he's a representative of the employer who would also be arrested alongside with them. But why is not transported in the same truck is because all those that are arrested are males, so for a female we cannot transport in the same truck. That is why they would need to use a different vehicle to transport her. And also at the one restaurant known as Second Story, there's one arrest of a waiter, and that waiter has got documentation but seemed not to be valid. So the Home Affairs is still going to investigate if indeed the ID that is producing to claim to be a South African is valid or not. So that's what we have done so far in terms of the arrest. But also, all the 3 restaurants, they do not comply in terms of the waiters and waitresses because they do not pay the national minimum wage, so they all pay them on tips and commissions. And at this particular restaurant, there are 31, 17 foreign nationals and 14 South Africans, all not having a basic salary. But we also prohibited the restaurant in terms of gas installations, so it can't continue to operate because their kitchen is mainly prohibited because they do not have a certificate of conformity, which must be provided by the center management. That's what we have done.
And you said 3 restaurants. Could you count them for us? Which are these restaurants that you have now prohibited?
Well, it's Second Story, it's Tang, and there's another one that I have not listed now from the back of my head, yes, on top of my head, but there are 3 that we did so far, and we'll be doing another 3.
When you say you prohibit the restaurant in terms of the gas installation, what does this mean? Does this mean the restaurant can continue working?
No, it simply means that the kitchen of the restaurant cannot continue to operate because for them to operate, they must use the gas, so they can't use that gas until we revoke the notice. So in this case, we said they cannot continue because of not having a certificate of conformity. It's a requirement by law that they must have such certificate for them to operate. But as soon as they acquire the certificate, then we'll then look at the validity and revoke the notice.
And just take us through to various other areas that you noticed when you were in the restaurant, because I know you were taking note of the issues that were coming up in this restaurant specifically.
Yes, there were a number of issues. One, that the kitchen was not in a good state of repairs. there was a leak in the roof and no first aiders appointment certificates, and also that they do not have a certificate of compliance in terms of electrical installation, but that also their floors were slippery, and they should make sure that their kitchen is actually in good state, including the ceiling. We do not want to say peeling ceiling or off ceiling, but then it must be in a condition that will be conducive. And whereas that their employees in the kitchen did not have the required protective equipment in terms of their clothing.
And what now then? What's the way forward now?
Well, we have issued them with notices, and then for non-compliance with the minimum wage, we'll still make the calculations and issue them with a notice, which will take them 14 days to correct. And with regard to the kitchen, like we said, we have prohibited already. And with regard to other issues of non-compliance on OHS, we gave them 60 days to correct. And there is another issue that will also issue them with a compliance order, is with regard to unemployment insurance, because when they declare, they don't necessarily declare the salary that the person is earning. For instance, if I'm earning 800, I'm just making an example, but in terms of the declaration, they'll say 900. So there's a discrepancy between what they declare to the commissioner and what the person is earning. And we do not know the reason why that is happening, but we said we'll have to then make sure that they correct it and tally what they declare with what the person is earning.
And just, Commissioner, just as we conclude, I want to find out more with regards to Babel, because we went to Babel in Pretoria. We know that they appeared before court yesterday, but then what is the update in terms of the employer and what's happening now?
Well, at Babel, we have not revoked the notice as yet, because we prohibited the kitchen on the same reason of gas installation. Where we have revoked the notice is actually Ocean Basket that we inspected alongside with Babel. But yes, the notice is revoked and they are operating now. The only dispute that they have is in terms of their salary. They say that it's not true, according to them, that they owe the waiters and waitresses, that they do not owe them. But we are saying no, they do owe them. And if they say it's not true, then they must produce a wage register, which proves that they have a basic salary. But we say, according to the records that we have, they do not have a basic salary.
Thank you very much for speaking to us. That's Advocate Nsiza. Michelle, he's just unpacking in terms of what's happening with this restaurant, but not this restaurant alone. Various two other restaurants in Sandton have also had the similar issue, but he's also just giving us an update in terms of what happened in Babel as well, in Pretoria, where is also still closed. But basically, this is going to be an ongoing operation, which we understand is just to ensure that there's compliance within the hospitality industry.